Ever since Fallout 4 introduced the first voice protagonist that we've seen in a Bethesda game, the notion of a voice protagonist has been super controversial. So, as one might imagine, everyone's been wondering whether or not the Elder Scrolls 6 is gonna have a voiced protagonist as well. Well, from what we can judge, the answer to that is no. I'd like to direct all of your attention to a recent statement from Todd Howard regarding Fallout 4's dialogue system. Howard said, and I quote here, "Obviously the way we did some dialogue stuff in Fallout 4, that did not work out as well. I know the reasons we tried that to make a nice interactive conversation, but it was less successful than other things in the game." Pretty much, this is Todd Howard admitting that Fallout 4's dialogue system as a whole wasn't as well received as Bethesda would have liked. I believe he's specifically pinpointing the voice protagonist in this quote, since he does explicitly mention the idea of an interactive conversation. The bottom line here is that Howard believes the dialogue system and voice protagonist were less successful based on fan feedback, which means we probably aren't going to see a voiced protagonist in Fallout or Elder Scrolls ever again. At the same time, I do want to clarify here, there's nothing at all wrong with liking the voiced protagonist in Fallout 4, and even if I personally wasn't really a big fan of it, I think you can at least make the argument for it being good. But with the Elder Scrolls, it's completely different, and there's just no way a voice protagonist would ever work out. For one, you have 10 different races in the Elder Scrolls, and realistically, all of these races ought to sound different. If Bethesda wanted to do things right, they would have to hire a male and female voice actor for every single race, which would result in 20 different voice actors, each saying a ridiculous number of lines, which just isn't realistic. Developers don't have unlimited resources, so doing this would really hurt the game in other important aspects like the depth, the size, and so on. They could reuse a couple voice actors for multiple races, but they definitely need more than just 2. Because if you don't have more than 2, the Argonian and the Nord are gonna sound the same, which is gonna kill immersion. The other option is to force you to play as the province's home race, which might be even worse. The point I'm trying to get at here is that there just is not a good way of going about a voice protagonist in an efficient manner for the Elder Scrolls 6, which is the first reason why I think it should not happen. But besides that, the protagonists of Fallout and Elder Scrolls are inherently different. In a Fallout game, your character has a past, a history, relationships, and more even before you start the game. In Fallout 4, for instance, you have a spouse, your son plays a huge role in the game, and you're either a retired army veteran or a law school graduate depending on which gender you choose. But in the Elder Scrolls, when you first take control of your character, he or she is an absolute nobody. Your character has no past, no relationships, nothing at all, which to me is pretty awesome because your character's background ultimately becomes whatever you want it to be. And that's exactly why the Elder Scrolls is so amazing for role-playing. The problem with a voice protagonist is that when you give someone a voice, they automatically go from nobody to somebody. Your character is no longer a blank canvas, but rather more of a stained canvas. Look, the bottom line is that the way Fallout protagonists have been done in the past, a voice protagonist wasn't so bad, but for the Elder Scrolls it would be a huge disaster. But maybe there's some of you out there who feel otherwise, and it's perfectly okay to have an opinion on this issue, so if that is the case, be sure to let me know down in the comments. Otherwise, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.